sana ma-depress nga siya. Maramdaman niya lahat ng pagkakamali niya na ginawa. Pagka may police visibility, yung kriminal, teka muna, may police doon. Marami ka ng crimes na ma-prevent.
In short, what do you want to see from BBM, President Marcos Jr. in his legacy years, and realistically, where should he stand on the 2028 question?
Magiging part ng legacy niya na pinakulong niya si Digong. Na-restore yung democratic space. Pakaulan si Sen Laila. Sa akin, kota na yun. The senior was vilified for being a strongman, pero the junior was the one who restored democratic space. Nanalo siya noong 2022. We were expecting the worst na continuation ito ng Duterte years. But iba'y nangyari.
Welcome back dito sa latest episode ng Pilipinas 360 Degrees. Kasama natin ulit si Senator Trillanes. Thank you very much, Senator. In the previous episode, of course, napag-usapan natin yung Show Me the Money Trail, basically. At saan galing, I mean, of course, without spilling the beans, yung basically, how did you connect the dots dito sa mga alleged ill-gotten wealth ng mga Duterte? Kasi parang dami ng pera eh. Hindi naman daw kaban ng bayan na ginamit sa mga travels ni Sara. Ang laki ng bayad yata sa kanilang abogado doon sa ICC. Speaking of which, by the way, you know, suddenly may brouhaha about baka bigyan ng interim release si Digong. In fact, I got so concerned that I had to call some of my contacts in The Hague and all. I heard from some contacts, ito yung the same contacts who said there'll be a warrant of arrest for Digong this year na I think Portugal daw or some country in Southern Europe was expressing openness, but nothing was done and dusted.
Yeah.
Pero parang lumabas is done and dusted. Is it because kailangan ma-justify yung mataas na talent fee ni Kuyang Kaufman? What is the whole brouhaha? To the degree, and just to be clear, of course, ikaw na-communicate ka na sa ICC, so you're kind of a party to the trial in one way or another. So obviously, there are certain limitations to what you can share. But to the degree that you can share your take or clearing the air here, Senator, what was the deal with the interim release thing?
Yung interim release provision, it's there. It's provided for extreme cases. Or some, kumaga, depende sa mga conditions. Una, kunyari, let's say, hypothetically, merong akusado or detainee na magkakaroon ng open heart surgery or kung ano man. Hindi naman magagawa yung procedure na yun doon sa ano. So, kailangan interim release doon sa ospital. Ngayon, kung may terminal illness, let's say, a 95-year-old detainee, nag-avail nun, interim release. So out of humanitarian consideration, terminal na yan, so doon siya sa hospice ilalagay. Or, kung healthy naman, pero kung ang kaso mo ay let's say obstruction of justice.
Hindi
yung
mass
principal.
atrocities na chief architect.
So yan yung mga precedents nun. Wala pang nabibigyan ng interim release na principal sa isang crimes against humanity case. So, yan yun. Ngayon, syempre, yung abogado niya, he's trying to earn his keep. Kasi
API, yung kanya.
So, ngayon, malaki yung sinisingil niya every month. So, he needs to come up with paasa pleadings, ganyan. I'm not saying impossible ito.
Can you tell gaano kalaki? Or like, okay, how many zeros are there? Like,
well, ganito, base sa information na
di umano, ano daw yung...
Base sa information na naipasa sa akin by very credible sources, aabot ng 10 million euros yung acceptance fee ng legal team.
10 million euros?
10 million euros
so like
just
$12 million almost, like something like 11. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, lampas sa kalating billion na pesos.
Oo.
Acceptance fee lang yan.
Acceptance fee.
Oh, wow.
Ngayon, i-compare mo yan dun sa total na ginastos, let's say, ng mga ampatuans, nung kumuha sila ng iba't ibang lawyers, maapot din namang $500 million. Acceptance because...
Fortune ba yan?
Marami. Hindi, isa lang yun.
Yeah.
Marami pang iba. Marami pa, I think si Panelo is even one. Yung mga gusto mag-cash in na mga abogado, napakalaki ng acceptance fee. Bakit? Kasi they will devote their entire law firms doon. Hindi na sila kukuha ng kliyente for the next so many years. So kailangan, it should be worth it. Yeah. Pangalawa, yung bukod pa dyan, meron pang monthly retainer.
Oh, wow.
Monthly retainer. Tapos, yun na yung mga billable hours.
Di umano, makano daw yung Per hour?
On average, 1,000 euros
Per hour?
per hour.
Oh, wow.
Kasama na yan yung biyahe. Kung nagbabiyahe, let's say, si Kaufman from England to The Hague, yung total travel time niya from lumabas siya ng bahay, nag-plane,
Nag-shower,
lahat,
nag-toothbrush.
hanggang doon, binibill yan.
Oh, wow.
Per lawyer, may mga staff pa. Ganon. Then yung accommodation, first class tickets. Kahit bumili na economy, pero ang ibibil, siyempre, first class. Oh. Tapos, yung accommodation, security, transportation, lahat yan.
Wow.
Representation, hindi yan kakain sa mga,
Current
mga stand na mga ito, di ba? So, the works yan. So, on average yan, mga 2.5 million euros a month. So, that's around 150 million. Kaya ngayon, kung ganyan ang singil mo, kailangan mo mag-produce every month ng pleadings. So far, nakalimang motions na sila.
Puro palpak.
Denied lahat. Pang-anim ito. I'm not saying imposible mangyari yan, but the odds are against it.
Because to begin with, hindi siya voluntarily na-cooperate. I mean, kung sabi nila, kinidnap siya, flight risk siya. Because the moment the kidnappers free him, why would he go back to them, right? And what is your read of the... Ilang pages? 15 page ba yung response ng prosecution team dun sa interim release issue? I mean, they had a long response, diba? Just for the sake of people who are not familiar, what is your read of the way the prosecution team responded?
Okay. Very telling na dun sa press release ni Kaufman, sinasabi niya na may agreement daw na hindi daw mag-oppose. Kaya nga maraming na-deceive doon. A lot in the media na-deceive, some personalities na and it created some panic na teka muna, ba't hindi in-oppose? Pero yun ang nakita mo, yung ginawa ng prosecution, sinabi pala there was never any agreement. So in-oppose sila vigorously yung motion na yon. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Part nung acceptance fee nung legal team ay yung lobby component and yung PR component. So, andyan na yan. Then, kasama na ngayon yung fake news at kung ano-ano. Kaya kailangan natin din maging vigilant dun sa information na nakakalap natin. So, yun.
So, you're quite confident na mukhang malabi yung interim release. And as far as the health of the president is concerned, it's taken care of. I mean, first world ang facilities sa Hague, no? Pero baka na-depress siya kasi last time I checked, when I was there in dun sa labas ng detention facility, only ang makapasok is abogado and yung direct family. So that means he cannot meet a lot of people he would want to meet. I mean, this is a president who's very gregarious, to put it mildly, right? Baka naman na-depress daw siya kaya gusto niya ng interim release para ma-meet niya yung mga ibang kaibigan niya sa buhay.
I'm sure. And dapat ma-depress lang siya. No? Kasi yan na yung part ng penance. The penance starts not with the sentencing, but now, ano siya. Palagay ko, doon pa lang nung on the way to The Hague, nag-crash na yung mundo niya Na from, sitting, at the top of the world na sisipain niya kung sino, pati Diyos, lahat. Pope, minura, from that, summit, ngayon ando doon siya. So, sana ma-depress nga siya. Dapat, para maramdaman niya lahat ng pagkakamali niya na ginawa sa buhay niya.
Well, speaking of that, Digong is just one side of the coin, no? He could be he's allegedly the mastermind dito sa budol, drug war, whatever you want to call it. But that inevitably brings us to Bato de la Rosa, Senator de la Rosa, who won with almost, more than 20 million votes. He was almost number 2 after Bongo. So, siguro feeling niya ngayon, he has a fresh mandate, he's coming in strong. But that doesn't make him immune from the warrant of arrest that should logically come for him. If Digong is going to face that, he should face it just as much, right? Kasi siya yung nag-execute ng war on drugs in Digong, at least in the first year or so.
Yes, and by the way, let me inject, hindi lang si Bato, kasi si Bongo is also in play. Kasi siya yung nag-finance based doon sa mga testigo.
Doon sa Quadcom hearing lumabas din to.
Siya yung nag-finance. So, sila hindi sila pwedeng, kumbaga, lahat sila played an integral role in the commission of the crime. Kaya they're as guilty. At so, yan, sa nakikita natin, it may happen several months down the road pa.
And again, this is very speculative, although not so, more scenario building.
Yeah.
Baka naman magkasabay sa hearing ni Sara and then biglang it will be about Bato, not Sara anymore. I mean, that would be a crazy situation if Bato gets his warrant of arrest, suddenly announcement, nasa gitna, dinidefend niya si Sara, yung pala siya mismo ang kailangan niya protektahan sa sarili niya.
I think that scenario would be favorable for Bato. He would try to seek refuge sa Senate. So, for sure, hindi yan ang gagawin.
Because you think ICC is smart to look at the logistical realities?
No, not ICC per se. Kasi ICC will just request for the, or
Arrest.
will just issue the warrant. But those who will implement, yun. So, in the case ni Digong, he was arrested dun sa worst place na ma-arresto siya. Di ba? Kasi wala siyang kalaban-laban, wala yung mga amuyong niya. So, ando doon.
Exposed siya, basically.
Exposed siya, basically. Wala talaga. Di ba? It was only Medialdea who tried to intervene. Di nagapos
Si Manila, di ba sinapak ba niya sa police naman?
Yun na yun. That's the worst place for him to be arrested. And yun. Ngayon, I think the law enforcers would know kung ano yung worst place for
So they'll try to catch you when your pants is down, basically. Something like that. Baka habang nag-mountain trailing, habang nag-shopping, I don't know, in Singapore, ganun. Again, the reason I'm talking about is because it could happen, right? Like, because puro lahat tayo nasa focus sa impeachment, Sara, etc. But Bato is still in the mix. But by the way, maybe aside lang yan, but dun sa Article 5, dun sa impeachment complaint, there's a discussion about conspiracy to commit crimes. Some people would interpret it, there are different interpretations, that pwede rin idikit yan sa Tokang, sa mga alleged EJ case na nangyari sa Davao. But I don't understand that because the impeachment, articles of impeachment should be purely about her conduct as the vice president and the DepEd when she wasn't in DepEd, right? It doesn't extend beyond that.
No, it should extend. Kasi ang pinag-usapan natin, fitness to hold public office.
Right.
Kunyari, hypothetically, kung may pinatay ka na tao on the eve of your assumption as vice president, tapos lumabas yung video na yon. Ngayon, kung justices ang may hawak ng impeachment court, sasabihin nila, inadmissible kasi biyan. Kaya nga papasok yung political and policy components.
Na pinag-usapan natin previous
So,
episode. Yeah.
mas may latitude, may liberality.
So it could be ICC adjacent in a sense that kung i-expose ng impeachment trial yung mga alleged tokangan, that could be relevant also to the... Because some would say, shouldn't Sara be also one of the chief principals? Kasi, yes, hindi siya Bato, hindi siya nasa kabinete ni Digong, but she was in charge of the biggest city in the country.
Yeah. She should be. No? And I'm sure she was part of it nung mayor siya. But unfortunately, wala pang enough corroborating evidence para lumagpas sa threshold na yan. As far as she's concerned.
The principal architect in terms of threshold to that. But nevertheless, that raises bigger questions, right? Because the ICC is about yung mga principals ang tinitignan. Could be 6 people, could be 11 people max or so, or could be just 1 or 2 persons, right? Although ang basa natin is at least half a dozen based on dun sa redacted documents na nakita natin sa ICC. But having said that, obviously, Senator, the issue of mass atrocities is about tens of thousands of unexplained deaths or deaths under investigation, to put it technically. So that means maraming sangkot dito, including non-principal people, mid-level people, which brings me to the issue of security sector reform at yung trabaho ng DOJ. So from what I understand, Secretary Remulla, outgoing DOJ Secretary Remulla, said that bukas na ang DOJ ngayon dun sa protection of the witnesses. He admitted na dinoktor yung mga documentos, including sa Davao. New PNP Chief Torre also mentioned yung mga kababalakan na nakita niya when he was based in Davao as a PNP chief. what should be the next step in terms of dealing with the other layer, the next layer of the drug war, yung budol war na yan, yung mga ibang officers na involved, at yung libo-libong sa ating mga kababayan na namatay under suspicious circumstances? What should be done there?
Ang na-mention mo nga yung security sector reform.
Yeah.
So, importante dyan yung accountability mechanisms. Hindi naman pwedeng yung let's say, yung mga nagkalabit nung 6,000 na deaths during police operations, ando doon pa rin sila eh. Hindi man pwedeng gano'n na lang yon. Kahit sabihin mong, hindi, inutos sa akin, teka, you're supposed to know what's a legal order or not. But they did it anyway. Dapat may consequence yun. Di ba? Kasi, ano na yun eh. Biruin mo yung nagnakaw ng let's say, isang saging, ikukulong mo.
Yeah.
Ikaw yung police, pero ikaw, meron kang binaril na inosenteng tao. Parang hindi naman yata, napatas na setup yun. So, kailangan nilang managot. So, actually, documented lahat eh. Sinubmit nila yung 6,000 officers and non-commissioned officers na involved dun sa operations na yon. Mahabang proseso lang nga. But kailangan gawin yon para yung susunod na generations of policemen, mag-iisip na kayo. Kunyari, someday may presidente dumating na ganyan, ulit.
God forbid.
Oh, God forbid. Gagawin ulit yung war on drugs 4.0 ko ano man. Dapat, you should have the moral fortitude to say no.
So, i-Duterte proof natin, kumbaga.
Yan,
proof natin.
Yun na yun. So, kaya, importante yung security sector reform, particularly strengthening yung accountability mechanisms. Nandiyan yung internal affairs, dapat yung CIDG. Kasi, walang ganong agency ngayon eh, sa PNP na focus lang sa mga transgressions ng police officers. Kasi yung internal affairs, more on information gathering yan, hindi yan prosecution arm per se.
And in terms of, yung mga NAPOLCOM, yung mga ganun, natanggal na yung mga DDS. Kasi, President BBM had this reshuffle, cabinet reshuffle, right? And some people were saying, oh, well, mukhang it didn't go far enough. Some people are wondering what's the wisdom. But at least one thing I saw is natanggal yung mga DDS elements. I mean, the Duterte, Menardo Guevara was a very questionable hangover for quite some time. And, there were also a couple of people I heard. Kanila nakita ko si Kalinisan, who was now in charge of NAPOLCOM. I was hearing from a lot of people that there were a lot of people in NAPOLCOM before na holdovers in Digong. Do you because part of security sector reform is you make sure the bad people or people are not still sticking around. What is your read of that in terms of the reshuffling and cleaning up the president is doing right now?
Well, those are good steps. Pero meron kasing ibang naiwan pa, holdovers, kasi may security of tenure. Ngayon, ayaw naman kasing i-disregard na lang yung rules of the game, ika nga para lang ma-purge itong mga taong ito, then hindi ka na iba sa ginawa ni Duterte. So, pero ganun ang ginawa niya Naglagay siya ng mga, kumbaga yung rear guard action ni Digong, naglagay siya ng mga tao na may security of tenure para maproteksyonan siya. Alam mo, ang pinakang na lang dito, ang mga blessing was, remember si Kalida, gagawin dapat COA.
Dating Solicitor General.
Buti nilang he got so sick, hindi, otherwise, may 7 years, yan. So, gagamitin yan to harass the administration. So, yan, si Martires, nilagay yan for a purpose. So, and meron pa rin sa NAPOLCOM. But I think marginalized na lang. But sa PNP per se, ando doon pa rin yung mga pro-Duterte na part ng sindikato niya hindi pa totally natanggal. Meron pa rin naiwan.
Which brings me to General Torre. I mean, I'm not saying this because we're friends, but to be honest, Senator Trillanes, everyone talks about T3, yung Tulfo 3 na hindi nangyari. Good morning kay Sir Ben Tulfo. Tito nangyari. But the other Tito I talk about is yung dalawang matapang. One is Trillanes, one is Torre. I mean, fairness to General Torre. I know maraming hingit sa kanya. I mean, we all know. Like, pinapaganan pa siya ng may ibang cabinet members. I don't want to talk about it. But in fairness to the guy, right? I mean, for him to go to the Commission on Human Rights and say, boss namin ng Commission on Human Rights on human rights issues, based on my own interviews and discussions with him, the risk he took, personal risk he took, operational risk he took with Kiboloy, with Digong. Of course, there are many people involved. We know that. And, you know, but nevertheless, siya yung mukha ng a more accountable, rule of law-based Philippines. First of all, what do you feel about General Torre now appointed as PNP chief? Because for a lot of us, that would have been the important indicator of what this administration wants in terms of accountability and rule of law. But also in terms of what do you think are challenges ahead for him and your advice probably for him?
Let me just start by saying napakaswerte ng Pilipinas na merong General Torre at this time sa Philippine National Police. Kasi alam mong meron siyang moral compass, no? It's working properly. Alam niya yung tama na gawin. Alam niya yung duty sa kanyang bansa at may balls to back it up. Minsan kasi even I know of AFP and PNP officers, alam naman nila yung tamang gawin. Pero hindi lang ginagawa kasi they didn't have the balls to back it up. So, yun. Yan yung si General Torre. And makita mo, hindi lang ito as PNP officers. You can imagine if you have a PNP chief, third senator in the person of General Torre, siguro naman
at the very least, at the very least,
at least maano niya yung was this image ng ni Bato na, di ba? At least ma-neutralize niya. You need to have a General Torre in public service, not only as a
para yung dangal ng PNP ay ibabalik.
So ano siya, very fortunate ang Pilipinas.
And what do you think should be his priorities? And I mean, we'll have him on this show soon. But from your perspective, ano yung mga dapat? Hanggang 2027 pa yata siya, di ba? Sa pagkaalam ko. Anyway, he has a year or two at least. Ano sa tingin niyo yung mga priorities in the coming years? Aside from yung mga operational issues, if ever may warrant of arrest kay Bato or whatever.
Maraming kailangang ayusin. Hindi enviable yung kanyang position.
Let's see, Bantag is still at large, a couple of other high-profile people.
So, pero bukod dyan, kailangan yung structural changes yung mangyari. Yung orientation ng kapulisan. Marami ng nag-change ng pananaw. But marami pang pwedeng gawin. Ang daming scalawags pa rin eh. So, pero nakita mo sa kanya at every turn, nire-relieve niya yung mga tao na yan. So, I think he hit the ground running. Marami siyang ideas at ginagawa niya ito. He may not be able to do that during sa tenure niya as Chief PNP, but at least substantially marami siya magagawa by then. Yung isang pwedeng gawin dyan, talagang balikan yung sa training and recruitment. Doon pa lang, kailangan inculcate talaga. Ano ba yung trabaho ninyo? Ayaw naman natin yung maging masyadong tolerant na policeman. Pero alam mo talaga yung linya eh. Alam mo yung kailangan mong gawin, di ba? Tapos, itong move to have more policemen sa ground, patrolling the streets. Alam mo yung sinasabi ni Sara,
CCTV na lang.
Hindi pwede yun. Kasi deterrent nga eh. Iba yung pagka may police visibility, yung criminal, teka muna, may police doon. Marami ka ng crimes na ma-prevent just for having a policeman standing there. Maaaring sasabihin, wala namang ginagawa itong mga... Wala. Pero yung impact niyan sa mga criminal malaki.
Psychological.
Tapos yung response time, kasi kung meron ka sa ilang kanto, mas mabilis yung response time. So magandang approach yun. And dito mo makikita na si Sara talagang makakontra lang, yung may masabi lang.
Pero medyo sablay din yung the way like she was trying to explain.
Sablay nga Sobrang sablay. Makakontra lang siya kay General Torre kasi si General Torre yung gumapos sa tatay niya Kaya parang lahat ng gagawin nito mali. So, doon mo makita. Tapos ganun yung mindset niya. She was trying to explain it. Imagine mo, kung presidente to ng Pilipinas, tapos ganun ka sablay, no? May problema talaga.
And, parang naging defensive ka dahil minsan parang, ano ulit ang sinabi? Like, hindi ko na-gets. Like, she's not even, like, at least hindi go. I mean, I'm not saying redeeming it, but at least hindi ko medyo nakakatawa, medyo spontaneous. At he could get the message. Ito, hindi talaga. How did she even become a national level politician? Which I think is unfortunately a reflection of malaking pa tayo dun sa mga kailangan natin puntahan, diba?
It's because of na-cultivate nila yung cult following. Na anybody na may gano'ng apelyido parang automatic yun na.
Yung Rodrigo Roa II, mukhang the other day, nagsiscript lang siya dun sa ng Davao, diba? Mali-mali pa. Bati yung hammer yata. Igay mo yung hammer, mga kalagay sa script, tapos pumunta yung staff. Sir, ito po. Like, oh my God. Like, and Davao is one of the most progressive, advanced cities in the country. Ayoko rin mga persona non grata. So, all respect and love for Davao City. But we deserve better than that, Senator. The reason I'm talking about this is because this is the last part of our discussion. Kanina sinabi mo na napakaswerte natin na meron tayong katulad ni General Torres sa PNP. Finally, someone of that caliber after all the Batorni shenanigans and antics and wars. Pero swerte din tayo, aside from having people like you fighting for democracy and all, swerte din tayo katulad for having someone that you also met, Vico Soto. Immediately sa outtaking niya, sabi niya, ayoko na pag-usapan 2028. Whenever he's asking about his ambition for 2028, he says, kaya nga nagiging trapo ang tao. You always push them to run for a higher office or another office. Yun ang trapo mindset. I love it when he did that. So we're lucky to have this kind of transformational, almost transcendental kind of leaders and all. Nevertheless, of course, I wish the best for Vico if he wants to take a rest from politics. Baka gusto niya magturo rin sa NCPAG like you or ASOG or something. Maybe before he'll make his next decision because he's too young to run for VP or presidency, right? And if he doesn't want Senate or Congress, then maybe mag-break muna siya. But having said that, 2028 is approaching us very, very fast. And as we speak, obviously, Senator Trillanes, you have been very clear about Riza na. And in fairness to Senator Riza, she also made it clear na bukas siya to be the standard bearer. Having said that, and again, I'm saying this purely in the spirit of democratic pluralistic discussion, there was this meeting between Bam and Lenny just the other day, and the letter, very heartfelt letter from Bam's daughter to Ma'am Lenny. Mayor Lenny also got the ground she hit the ground very fast, doing all the right things, first 24 hours pa lang. So there now even discussion, maybe it's going to be Lenny Bam, or maybe even Bam. He did very well. He was number 2 in the Senate. Actually, like what I said, sana tumakbo ka na ng Senato. He had more important things to do. So, but before talking about 2028, can we go back again to 2025? Because it produced some very interesting results. You made it a competitive race under almost impossible conditions. That 40-60 split was unthinkable just a few months ago or even before elections. In the case of Bam and Kiko, top 5. 20 million votes in the case of Bam. More than 15 million votes in the case. Si Kiko daw ay para akala niya fake news. Number 5 pa rin siya. Kaya tuloy, ito ang Senado. Anyway, and then Akbayan number 1, right? So, many interesting things happening, Senator. Are we seeing finally some sort of mga inklings that baka the Philippines is ready to go to the next level? And that 2028 actually could be really an exciting space for kind of an interesting kind of politics.
We're still in the process of assessing what really happened. Kasi baka kasi fluke ito, baka it's a glitch or a random thing. Titignan natin kung ano ba talaga ang mangyayari.
Or part glitch, part also structural changes.
Or part na talagang dynamic na yung electorate natin. So we're in the process of evaluating that. But we need to keep our feet on the ground, continuously getting the right sense of the public pulse. Pero kailangan na nating magsimulan yung groundwork.
Right.
Yung sa pink naman kasi, napo-float na si Senator Risa, Senator Bam, si Mayor Lenny.
Yeah.
Any of them, I'm sure will do a good job as president. Pero ang nakikita ko kasi na nagmamatch dun sa times ngayon na talagang kailangan mong sumagupa ng mga masasamang mga elemento, ayun si Senator Risa.
No holds barred.
Kasi iba yung peacetime president, yan yung wala kang posisyon sa iba't ibang issue, that they represent that. Pero kasi we're living in such dangerous world right now na kailangan merong taong kayang sumagupa, and they should be able to show that now before they are president. Hindi yung pagdating mo doon hindi ka sanay sa sagupaan. Paano yun? Diba? I'm not saying these people are cowards, but where do you really stand? Diba? Sa mga controversial issues. Me as a voter, as a citizen, yun ang hinahanap ko sa leader na nakikita ko kay Senator Risa na hindi ko nakikita kina Mayor Lenny at kay Senator Bam.
What if the argument is that, well, Bam did very well, for instance, or Kiko also, is because they focus on gut issues daw. Education, health, baka yun daw ang hinahanap ng mga voters. Ako naman, it's not mutually exclusive, right? You can do both. It's not like Senator Rizal Tiveros did not discuss those issues when she ran for Senate.
Hindi. You can do both eh.
You can do both.
Kasi everybody, yung mga gut issues na yan,
it's always
given
there.
Yan, it's there. Just to cite an example, si Senator Joel Villanueva, gut issues din ang dinadala niya nung tumakbong senador yan. Number one yan.
Yeah.
Pero ngayon, in the face of adversity, where is he? Where does he stand? Diba? Would you put the same guy as president of the country? Probably, meron mga may gusto ng ganun tipo. What would make Mayor Lenny, Senator Bam, different from people like Joel Villanueva? Diba?
So, do you think there should be like primaries to do the... so, kasi ang worry ng ibang tao is that there is momentum, there's opening.
Yeah.
But baka mag-watak-watak. If there could be a situation, let's say Riza becomes the standard bearer, but Bam decides, no, I'll run on my own independent naman, or something like that. How do you make sure na consolidated yung base ng pink and progressives?
I think if yung primaries na setup would do the trick. Ako naman, nakikita ko, hindi naman yan sila maghihiwalay na tipong pag tumakbo si Senator Risa, tatakbo rin si Mayor Lenny. Hindi yan. Magkakausap-usap yan na itong tatakbo. Pero ako, ipupush ko yung primaries. Pag-usapan niyo yung mga issue. Kasi, teka, di ba, remember, we were vilified nung kinall out si...
On the Sara meeting.
Sara meeting.
Toxic masculinity daw tayo.
Di ba, ngayon, fast forward to where we are now, hindi ba tama naman yon? Ngayon, pero may gano'n na rin siyang cult followers na wala na siyang gagawing mali. Hindi. Dapat
no one is above criticism.
Ngayon, pero sa kanya, in the first place, why did you allow yourself to be placed in that situation na maka-call out ka? So it shows poor judgment. Yung pag-praise niya kay Marcoleta,
Senator Marcoleta.
It's a practical endorsement. No matter what they say, binigyan niya ng kumbaga, parang in-endorse niya sa mga cult followers niya. That's poor judgment. Kasi 'di ba, namimili na nga tayo ng mga tas pupunta ka doon. So, it's unfortunate.
you're gonna put us in trouble again. Mababasa naman tayo dalawa. No, but I really was not interested in going back to that. But no, but this is what I love about you, Sonny, is yung tapang ganun, di ba? You know me, I love people like Alexei Navalny type. Yun yung mga idol ko eh. So, I always saw you as our own version of that. So, thank you so much for that. Just isang huli lang. We have a president, by the way, President BBM. Because he's a very non-confrontational, he's very much focused on statesmanship and policies and all. Minsan feeling ko hindi masyadong binabigyan ng pansin yung mga ginagawa ni President BBM. But in fairness kay President BBM, I think he really wants to restore a sense of statesmanship and policy, discipline and all. No one is perfect. Obviously, we can criticize this administration naman in the levels. But having said that, what do you want to see from BBM in the legacy years he has? Malapit na yung next SONA niya, and I think this will be the most crucial SONA to set the tone for his final years. And importantly, what should be his calculus for 2028? Because wala naman siyang manok on his own, right? It's not like Sandro will run or like I don't think someone close him. In short, what do you want to see from BBM, President Marcos Jr. in his legacy years, and realistically, where should he stand on the 2028 question?
Dun sa legacy niya, well, unang-una, magiging part ng legacy niya na pinakulong niya si Digong.
And there could be more.
Oo.
Yeah.
Na-restore yung democratic space. Di ba? Napakaulan si Sen Laila. Sa akin, kota na yun eh. Malaking bagay yun. Kasi, remember, nung nanalo siya nung 2022, we were expecting the worst na continuation ito ng Duterte years. Yeah. But, iba yung nangyari. So, practically, parehas nga sila ng polisiya ni Pinoy eh. Diba? Sa West Philippine Sea. So, lahat-lahat. Kaya, ako, pananaw ko, hindi naman ako purist or never Marcos type. Na-appreciate ko yon objectively kasi these were the things that we fought for. O, di nakikita ko yon. Yung iba lang kasi, they cannot see past the surname eh. And that's a problem.
Or separate the senior from the junior.
Yes. So, dapat maiwalay mo. And yun nga ang irony dito. The senior was vilified for being a strongman, pero the junior was the one who restored democratic space. Diba? So, that alone is a legacy na parang nabago, gumanda yung imahe ng Marcos. Doon sa second part, I would like to see him focus on the economy.
Right.
Ma-fulfill niya yung kahit mapababa niya yung presyo na yung presyo kasi ng bigas, emblematic yun eh ng economic problems natin na while regardless of the GDP na growth, hindi naman siya nagtitrickle down sa pero yung pagbaba ng presyo ng bigas, it shows yung empathy doon sa mga naiiwan. At
so you want more of the pilot projects na nakita natin sa Visayas earlier this year, yung 20 pesos kada kilo.
So kung ma-spread yan across the country, kahit na subsidized, gawin para lang makaabot sa taong bayan yung biyaya ng demokrasya natin. Iyon.
Well, thank you for that because actually our previous episode was with Secretary Kiko Laurel. So we discussed that issue and he was saying, please give me a bit more time, konting patience lang, we're moving in that direction. And also tinutulungan daw yung mga magsasaka in terms of finance, infrastructure. And how important do you think is also the infrastructure issue? Because I remember during Pinoy's time, ang dami nagalit sa admin niya because of the traffic situation. Na ginamit ni Digong yan. Di ba sabi ni Digong, hindi lang niya, obviously budol, di ba? Sabi niya, wala ng krimen. Pero isa pang sinabi niya, mawala ng traffic, ayusin niya yung traffic. And then after 1 year, minumura niya na yung traffic sa... Do you think it matters for President BBM to also oversee some major projects? Because I think the subway project, the first stations will come up before he steps down, right? So do you think those things are also important in terms of setting the tone, the Philippines rising, fixing our infrastructure?
I believe so. Ito naman mga long-term projects ito eh. Yung may MRT na hanggang sa San Jose del Monte, marami. So, yung mga Pinoy, hindi naman nila makikita kaagad na maralasap yan. But yes, yung mga infrastructure projects, I think that the Marcos Sr. was known for that, and mukhang meron siyang in store din na ganito. I think magkakaroon
Marcos Sr. had 21 years, but this guy has Marcos Sr. had 21 years. This one has 6 years.
6 years. So, mayroon din yata siyang plano ng mga major infrastructure projects, mga legacy projects para matatandaan in the future. So, maganda yun. Basta, ito lang, ang problema kasi dito, while he's doing that, may gustong magpatalsik sa kanya. So, that's a challenge, really, sa isang administrasyon.
And pinakahuling point, actually, as for 2028, do you think a kind of I don't want to call it unity, but some sort of coalition, anti-Duterte coalition, pro-Philippines coalition, do you think that's naturally the way forward to make sure hindi makabalik ang mga Dutertes?
I think that should be the way forward. Kasi yung mga pinks, we have to, alam mo yung karamihan dyan, they posture na inclusive sila, and yet, gusto exclusive na ganito.
Cancel culture. Yeah.
Hindi. And yung magiging kandidato for president ng 2028, kailangan na naisipin niya na magiging presidente siya ng mga Pilipino. Hindi lang ng mga loyalists, ng mga pink, or ng mga DDS. Lahat. So, kailangan yun, lalabas ka sa echo chamber mo, lalabas, kumaga, unifying figure ka. At yun dapat. It should be the only way to go. And alternative niyan, you'll have a return of the Dutertes.
On that very stark warning, but at the same time, counsel for kind of Team Philippines for 2028. Thank you so much, Senator Trillanes, for your fantastic conversation. Join us again for the latest episode ng Pilipinas 360 Degrees. Kausapin naman natin other important officials and policymakers. And of course, isa dyan hopefully si General Torre. Maraming salamat and talk to you soon.